Hey everyone, so quick little thing. Apparently I forgot to react to a Mega Wimsicott, so I'm here just doing that real quick. That's probably why I missed it right there. That is very hard to see, at least with the current setup that I have. And it bloomed! And its horns became thorny, okay. So, what Pokedex did it go with? Like the wind, it can slip through any gap, no matter how small. It leaves balls of white fluff behind. And it turns into like a cotton ball flowering into a bunch of petals. Much like a lot of the other Mega Evolutions, it seems a little over-designed. However, I'm not sure if I ever noticed the pre-evolution having that little knot in the back. I mean, I love Whimsicott as it is, but I didn't realize it had like a bud, or it was supposed to be more of a flower, so I like how they made that an actual flower. I'm not sure how I feel about the fluff becoming many different flowers. And the bottom one just looking kind of like ice cream with sprinkles. I like how they overemphasize the grass in particular, and with all the flowering and how pink Whimsicott is, it definitely helps show the fairy off better than the regular evolution. I don't know, if this was me, I would probably have that flowering in the back into 6 different leaves, because it looks like each bump of Whimsicott's cotton is in 6 different formations. So you could do that, and then leaves on each side, making them almost like wing leaves, wing petals, to make it a more beautiful rather than messy design. A bunch of flowers is not going to be necessarily clean in its design. But if you're going to keep with a fluff ball Pokemon, it's important to keep that around, and it isn't a final evolution, which mine would be more like. It's a Mega Evolution. It's meant to accentuate the properties of Whimsicott. So keeping the cotton would probably be for the best, while showing some sort of growth. I just say that there's too many growths. Now, on to the real video.
Hello everyone, back to Pokemon Uranium. Gonna start off with creature number 101. Pretty excited to go into this once again. Last time we had a great bunch of little creatures, and big fan of a lot of them. So I'm hoping it's just as strong here in my opinion. So, let's go ahead and get on into it. 101, Flagger. The Cub Pokemon. Infligita? Cause Cheetah? Maybe. I'm not sure. Ooh, formerly a starter Pokemon in Beta 1 and 2 of the game, succeeding in publicly unavailable starter Enflailion. The role was given to Raptorch, which I believe I already covered. Oh, yes, I was a big fan of. Okay. So it is a dual evolution starter. That is very strange. The size of the flame on Flagger's tail indicates if it is close to evolving. Some Flagger will intentionally eat flammable items to make it bigger. You're cheating the system, don't do that. Need to work hard for it. Oh, that's strange. Okay. So, Flagger. You have a lot of deep colors in this. I think it's a good mix between basic and involved when it comes to the design of this creature. I like how rounded the ears are to show how young it is, and I give an approximate scale. The deep reds of its paws, ears, and even the sclera of its eyes, along with a little bit of its nose hair, absolutely portray fire. Its dark orange skin could be ground, but it also could just be a representation of fire. And this is a great example of talking about contrast. A lot of this creature is very rich and very dark, so the first thing that catches my eye is the bright flames on its tail. That might be what they're going for, but the teeth are so small that even the white on the very dark nose don't draw my eye as much as the tail and the little flames on its back legs. Again, if you want the eye to be drawn to its tail first, that's fine. But as it is now, I guess it could be wanting to loop around the body so that it goes from the tail to the paws to the face. But generally, I think you would want to do the other way around, where it goes face to paws to tail, or face, tail, paws. Either way, you're going to want a linear design so that a person can appreciate the whole design rather than completely ignore half of it. I absolutely love the shiny of the colors. I love, because purple. I'm too much of a sucker for purple. But again, it has the same problem of having such a bright area focused on the tail of the creature. Which, yes, the tail is important for the Pokedex entry, so that it very well could be the incomplete intention of this person, and if so, they did a fabulous job. It's generally not what you want your audience to see first. But hey, to each their own. Infligita and Mega Infligita are very strange departures of this design. Infligitas are some of the fastest known Pokemon on Earth. They are able to outrun even a Rapidash. They can reach speeds of 200 miles per hour. Oh boy. So for a cheetah Pokemon, running fast, it's a complete connection. I can understand it completely. Using some of those bright flames as propulsion for that speed, I understand. And having sleek designs, long pointed limbs, both for a longer stride and for more aerodynamics. It's all very understandable for where this design was taken. I find it very interesting how it has both a raccoon-like tail and almost horns, but it seems to be Infligita's ears? I'm unsure how I feel about that design. Base form, just because it looks like a long appendage for the sake of keeping a long, narrow aesthetic. I also find it funny how it compares itself to Rapidash, which, let me take a closer look at Rapidash. Yeah, I was wondering about that. But like Rapidash, it has open flames on its back. Rapidash specifically is supposed to be rideable, so I was wondering if this one had flames on its back to show you no, it's not rideable. That still might be the case because the flames here are more pronounced, while Rapidash's kind of tapers out until it gets to the tail. Either way, it's kind of funny, to me anyway. I find it strange why its tail is a conical shape, though. I feel like instead of that, you could have done a short, bushy tail, maybe very long, thin, with little juts of fur coming out. That way, it's a better mix between Flagger, and Mega Infligita, so it looks like the tail grows as it evolves. Maybe the mid-evolution also growing out a little bit and having some flame coming out the middle. That way it's a good transition, instead of the strange raccoon tail that almost comes out of nowhere. I like the idea of it being red, though, so maybe red-tipped, or have some red in it so that it matches the rest of the design. I like how the feet continue to be a dark red color. Again, it kind of looks like shoes, which you would probably need if you're running so fast, so you don't get tripped by different terrain. But then Mega Infligita. It's taking the propulsion to the next level, looking very serious, and losing some of the aerodynamics of the ear horns to look more like offensive antlers, or maybe even motorcycle handlebars. And I find it interesting how its limbs look like they should be spinning, well, almost like wheels, as it's going on. Maybe it doesn't need to go that way, but it almost looks like they could rotate, and the jets on the other end helping the rotation to make this creature go super fast. It looks very armored, mechanical. The Mega could almost be fire steel, and I wouldn't have a problem with it. Especially with the shine. I guess both have a shine to them. But this could be conceived as a metal shine on the front pixel art. Oh, okay, so there is the little rounded tail. I didn't see that before. But a little rounded tail seems to be containing... I don't think it's fire. I think it is just a tail. A very bushy tail. So it goes from no tail to one tail to 3, I think. I'm not sure how I feel about that. If those little nubbins of a raccoon tail were gone in the Mega Evolution, I think my idea for the second or the final evolution tail to be good. But since it is incorporated into the Mega, it isn't as bad as I thought it was. I thought the raccoon tail came out of nowhere and went nowhere. But all in all, not too bad. I can see why it was a starter, but I do think... Let me actually compare the two starters, since that little bit of lore came up. So compared to Raptorch and its evolution. Oh, that's right. There was... I'm still unsure about this, because I believe that Orchinx was a monotype. No, it was a dual type. Is the water a monotype? No, okay. That makes complete sense. So they wanted the starters to all be dual typing. Maybe not from the beginning, but eventually. And with Infligita, I can understand they just wanted to ditch the idea. Its Pokedex entry having a lot to do with speed and fire by itself. So it doesn't make too much sense to introduce a new typing from there on. That makes sense. I still think it could have been cool if you're going to keep the dual, or the two evolution starters. Because I am a fan. And then, again, dog Pokemon I'm a huge fan of. Chemical. Oh, a Chimera Pokemon. Okay. Chemiconda is its evolution. A Pokemon said to be the product of genetic testing. The white spot on its back is its weak point. Okay, so it is very... Okay, that is very apparent, and it's stark against the rest of its design. Okay, so yeah, no, if you're gonna introduce it into the Pokedex, it needs to be very apparent if it's a weak spot in a video game. Usually it is a bright red button, though, or a bright area on a creature. So I like the inversion where this is completely desaturated but very bright on a very, very saturated Mon. I feel like I enjoy its alternate color scheme better just because the orange of its wings seem to be more desaturated along with the main color of its body being a green. The red, purple, and green on the base color scheme is so bright, so saturated. If they tone down anything, I think it would help control the design a little bit more. Heck, maybe if they just desaturated the wings, make it a grayish purple, that would probably help. And then the wings almost point to the weak spot, so it helps draw the eye in, but it might not be as much of a contrast. It's hard to say. But I do think overall it's way oversaturated, even if you're trying to create that contrast with the white and all the colors everywhere else. Let's see how Chemiconda does. It might look a little bit better. Like, I like the shape. I like the idea. It's the coloring that has got me all mixed up here. So Chemiconda. Normally passive unless provoked. Chemiconda inject their prey with a paralytic venom and then wraps it around their tail, squeezing the life out. So, is the tail doing most of the thinking? Or is the mammal? The male and female differences are so strange here. Okay, so immediately the only thing I noticed was the mane, but the pattern on the snake is different too. That might be more important to notice as a subtlety. I think the rings are more interesting, just because dots look a little bit strange from one to the other, but snakes having a pattern of rings to also denote how long they are, it looks a bit more natural than just random dots. I'm more used to lines when it comes to snakes, so rings aren't that far off. The mane is interesting. It's saturated blue. I'm not sure if the button was, but it's much easier to see that this is a blue, and the shiny has more of an orange tint. It's almost trying to match with the horns and wings. But again, I find the coloration too saturated. I do really love the male shiny, as opposed to both the female shiny and the both regular forms, because it does desaturate the green, which is a very prominent color. It is the base coat of the mammal part of this chimera. So it helps lean in to the mane without making it look so drastically different that it, I hate this phrase, assaults your eyes. It's just a lot to look at. You look at maybe the center of the Chemiconda, and then your eye is taken both to the snake and the mane and the body a little bit because of how dark it is, but really those two. And you keep going back and forth between the two. You stay along with the mane, which doesn't have a lot of detail, especially on the back. Here, you go to the mane first, just because of the contrast. There's a strange bit of red in between, so maybe that's what you're going for. So, you start with the mane, then you look at the snake, and then you bring it back. It's not exactly an easy line of sight to follow. On this, the coloration's a little bit better. The snake is a darker red, so you could go from the white, the contrasting... I think my eye goes snake, wraps with the snake to the wing to the face when it comes to the front part of the shiny. Because the snake is dark against the rest of this light creature, so it goes to the base tail first, then wraps around to the head. As opposed to the normal coloration which my eye went head, tail, torso, which is a lot to go through. This is just my idea, but if you're following a creature in a linear pattern, you are absorbing all of the details as you go. When you're going from one end to the other, you have to compartmentalize what you're seeing. You have to remember everything as you're going, because if you go head, foot, body, what was the head like? Now, what was the feet like? And you keep going that back and forth. But if you're going head to foot, head to neck, okay, what was that connection like? Okay, I can see why. Neck to body, okay. Body to leg, leg to foot. You understand the connections and how they all relate. Again, I just think it's a coloring issue. I like the design, and I find it interesting how they're going with a... Is that 3D? Anyway, that's pretty interesting. Ooh, okay. The mystery gift, pretty cool. I'm guessing for Halloween as well. That's very cool. Tikiki. Oh, monkey! Okay. Grass type monkey. Pure grass type, so all the leaves... Yeah, okay. It hides its true face behind a wooden mask. They will often convene in order to dance elaborate dances. Tikiki. It looks very happy, all covered in leaves. Completely believing that it's grass type. If you've seen those type of masks before, you can understand that it's all wood, and so the dark color doesn't portray like a ground or rock. It's all very foresty. That combined with a monkey who's usually in the jungle, grass completely. Yeah, I can't imagine this being another type. I like for a baby, it is very happy, cheerful. It's very, very short and stout. It just generally is very happy-go-lucky. I can't say too much about the limbs because it seems almost very manky. I do like the coloration on the top leaves, how it goes. It's 3 different colors depending upon how far they are. It almost gives the air that the ends of the leaves are dried and decaying, like they have been plucked out for a while. It gives a slight sense of age, so maybe this could be a second evolution for a 3 Pokemon line, but it could also easily be a first stage. Now, Freaky Tiki. Okay, Freaky Tiki, let's go. It produces deep bellows and thumps from within its mask that can be heard for miles. It can summon all the Tikiki in the area, and together they make music by drumming on their masks. I feel like that'd get very disorienting. Maybe just a little bit. So yeah, going from straight grass, you can see the jets of flame and fire. Maybe you wouldn't notice it so much. Well, I'm guessing the sprite's going to be bigger in the game, so you would see the fire around its eyes, its angry face, maybe even fire on its chin. That combined with the yellows and reds that are on the mask that were just barely hinted on with hints of red in the previous evolution. Gets to be a little bit more... It conveys fire in the color scheme along with a little bit with eyelashes being exaggerated to fit fire. I like the changes with monkeys here. So the first evolution looked very much like a Mankey. This one looks like a more full-grown monkey. Maybe if Rillaboom's pre-evolution, the second stage, had a sprite, I could more coherently connect it to that. But it looks like a stronger, slightly older monkey, especially with the way the hands are curled up and the hind legs are a bit stronger looking than the twigs that Tikiki has. All in all, yeah, it does look very, very much stronger, like it is a higher evolution. So, I like it. Not too bad. I am starting to wonder where Uranium takes place. I know some of the events, but now I'm just curious about where geologically it is. Unymph? Just a bug type. They inhabit mucky bogs and swamps. Although they are somewhat slow and weak in battle, they can extend their jaw rapidly to deliver a powerful blow. Let's go. It go the big chump. Oh yeah, no, the large lower jaw, I'm a big fan of that. So I do like the dark blue and bright oranges. It's bug-eyed, its large bug eyes, its large lower jaw, and its antenna, all being exaggerated with a vibrant orange on a darker blue. Maybe it's because it's an insect and a lot of its joints are connected inside of an exoskeleton. I can believe these feet more than, I believe it was the coconut Pokemon that I looked at before. Even though they're the same shape as that, the exoskeleton idea and seeing that it's a bug is a little bit more understandable. I'm still not the biggest fan of it, and I feel like the legs could have been done a different way, but they're serviceable. It's not very baby Pokemon, but I'm a big fan of having all of the spikes in between the base body and what looks like an armor or shell on top of the creature. So even if that armor is curled up, the spikes denote an easy separation line and show that this creature is very powerful. It also helps just to break up the vivid nature of the blue. Yeah, its upper armor is a little bit more desaturated, but having the white break it up makes it unnecessary to have more designs on the tail. So even this tail being curled up, if those spikes weren't there, it would look very bland and unnatural for a creature. But having them there gives it a bit more life, a bit more use for having such a long tail, that it becomes more understandable. And it even foreshadows how useful the tail will be with Harptera. A swift and fierce hunter, they can vibrate their wings at supersonic speeds in flight. They use their harpoon-shaped tails to skewer prey. So the tail being such a focus, once again, I think it was a great foreshadow to have the tail be a weird weapon that a more experienced player would look at because of how thick and strong it looked with such little spikes. This one, it grows wings, so definitely flying typed. I like how sharp the tail looks and how in the position that that Harptera is in now, it almost looks like a fishing hook. Like it is supposed to skewer prey in order to capture it. It even has 1 or 2 points to hook onto a creature as it captures it. And now that I've noticed that there is a male and female difference, I wonder what other changes there are. From what I can tell, that's the only thing. It's just whether or not it has 1 or 2 spines on the end of its tail. Oh well. So yes, that orange, I like that orange and compared to the light blue that the rest of the body is mostly in. It pairs well with that, so the horns and the sclera of the eyes look very nice and natural. The bright, or the slightly darker, more saturated orange on the tips of the wings, I'm not so sure about. You do see the same color on the beak of this creature, so it fits a little bit. And if the beak was the same orange as the tail and antenna, I feel like it would be a little bit too much around the face of the same color. So it did need a bit of a breakup, but you could have maybe... No, I'm not sure if that would change anything. I was going to say you could change the beak to be that lighter orange and make the eyes white, but Nymph started out with orange antenna, eyes, and lower jaw, so it would make sense that those stay a little bit the same when it evolves. So you kind of have to break up the oranges a little bit. So I understand what you're going for. And then having the dark eyes and mouth do make it look a little bit more beaten down. And then paired with a bright face and antenna, there is some good contrast. However, I think my eyes are immediately drawn to the body, which is filled with, there's white, there's dark blue, there's light orange, there's light blue, an even lighter shade of blue. So all that's going on in the center mass. But then what this design does to combat that is either you can go to the wings, which wouldn't be the best eye line, but you could do it. So you could go to the wings, look up, and see that contrast between the orange and white and the little pattern there. Go to the head, which has all the different oranges, blues, and the horns curve down into the tail, which curves into the body once again. So it almost creates a loop of where your eyes can go. Instead of just a regular line, it's possible you could also go something like body, tail, head, wings, so it's more of a spiral. Either way, what I would, if you're going to look at a design, make sure you note where you first look, because what an eye is first drawn to is very important, and you want that to help that creature stand out. It doesn't itself have to be important, but it needs to lead to something important at least. That makes your own creature very unique and yours. Not too bad. I don't think I'd have it on my team, but I do appreciate the design. It's a very complex design for what the creature is, and to be able to do that in a coherent way is very admirable. Chicotl? Okay. Quetzoro? See, where is this located? Central America? But that doesn't really make sense with the T. I don't understand. Okay, so Chicotl. Chicotl are shy, but can be affectionate. They are said to be related to both dragon and bird Pokemon. You could almost make a case that this could be flying, just because birds are flying, and yeah, it's not the duo is a flying type, but I don't think it has I'm thinking PTU, but it does not look like it should be able to fly. I'm not sure if it learns fly. I know Dodrio does, but Doduo is still flying. I don't think Empoleon is not flying. Steel water. Minior? Minior has a levitate. It's flying type. Does Minior learn fly? It might. I can't think of many flying Pokemon that can't fly. Doduo is the quickest one that I can think of. The rest I'm not so sure. Oh well. But again, this almost has bird or owl features, so I could see it if they went that way. But I do like the green and red, even though they are both vibrant. It's kind of broken up with the yellow, which is not as vibrant as it could be, but it's spotted everywhere in the design. So it's a little bit lighter in the face, and then the dark eyes, that's where your eye goes. The rest of the body kind of looks plain. So I do like the texturing on the elbows or shoulders that make it look a little bit more feathered, which again leads into like an owl design. But the highlights of red are very nice to see, and they seem to be very important, especially for Quetzalcoatl, Coltlith, and maybe a little bit for Coltlith. The yellow get very much more important, so it's interesting to see where those will go. And I really do like the shiny looking very grass-like. Absolutely grass-typed. If you wanted a more coherent design, I feel like that could be a better start, because it's taking a green and making it, having a desaturated and a heavily saturated but darker version. So grass is not missed whatsoever, and it isn't as blown out of a design. Quetzalcoatl often wrap themselves around long branches of trees and fall asleep. They dine on nectars from flowers. Is this just grass? Yes, what is grass flying? Okay, I didn't even see that before. So it is a flying type. So all the feathers make sense. I like how it's grown feathers out of those weird elbow, feathers from the previous design. So it's hinting a little bit towards that. The bright red on the eyes and the head have grown into large plumage. Same with the tail. Did the tail had a little bit of red on Chicotl, but on Quetzalcoatl, it's become a full bloom, almost like a peacock tail, but a little mini. I'm glad that it got more of a pattern design on the body, making it a little bit more interesting. It's very snake-like on the belly. The head looks a little bit disconnected because of the feathers, but that's kind of what feathers end up doing, is a lot of neck feathers point downwards, especially if you see a bird moving. It's almost like wearing a necklace that's connected to its jaw. All in all, not too bad. The colors are much more distributed. They are still very vibrant, but more of the yellow helps break it up even more. And the green is a little bit more desaturated. It's very dark, which the red is a bit darker too, but the saturation is much more bearable. The large swaths of red is still a little bit much, but it helps bring a little bit of flavor to this creature. Again, you don't want a specific color to match a type, but that can be a good benefit or a good point to lean on to make sure that your design stays steady. Quetzalcoatl, the Forest Lord Pokemon. Okay. Early natives of Baikal worship Quetzalcoatl as gods. They are fiercely devoted to protecting nature and will attack anyone, friend or foe, who defiles it. So, better shaman? Well, with the Aztec or Mayan naming scheme of taking Quetzalcoatl and stretching it out into an evolutionary line, the whole line having reds, yellows, and greens, I appreciate very much. It's a very good little... It's showing a little bit of admiration towards Mexico as a culture and where it came from. The dragon design is very interesting. I'm a big fan. I find it hard for myself to structure creatures that are very snake-like while making them all very interesting. Any amount of creatures, once you reach a certain point, it's hard to make them each distinctly interesting. I learned that very quickly while trying to design a similar line to Eevee with Myriad and its different typing evolutions. Oh boy, it's very hard to come up with. I think I ended up with five or six different alternate evolutions that all need to tie back to one creature. And that is the point where I really needed to stretch how different the same body type can be but look similar. I like the positioning that this creature's in, Quetzalcoatl. It looks like it could spring out and attack you if you did something wrong, either to the forest or itself. The spines that are often on a dragon's back have been replaced with almost what looks like streamers. With the color scheme and the inspiration here, I almost think of a piñata. Like that could be paper mache coming off, but I know that this creature's stronger than that. Could also just be wilted flowers. Speaking of flowers, I'm not a huge fan of the whole peacock fan tail, but a budding flower from the tail, I absolutely love. An ankylosaur is my favorite dinosaur. If you saw Pokemon Stage, you know that. But having a bulbous tail at the end where you can really whack somebody, I find that so much cooler than just a fan where you can, there's a nice breeze, but yeah. A flower doesn't really have that much weight to it, but it looks like it could hurt if you wanted it to. The beak that it has, it looks like it could really hurt if it went after you, but it could still somewhat work for flowers if it was still an herbivore at this point. Probably is, but I think that's more of a carnivore beak. I'm not quite sure. But all in all, lovely design. I'm glad that the yellow takes more and more prominence. It's always helped out the design, but now it's a prominent voice in that design. And the head focuses more on contrast when the lower jaw is all black amongst three very bright and vivid colors. It is very much like a dragon, but still keeps a grass typing. The green helps that, but it's mostly the flower bud on its tail that's keeping that all tied together. Quetzalcoatl had a lot of foliage. Chicotl had a lot of green. but this one brings a little bit of both into the design without making it look explicitly grass type. Trekton, the crane beast Pokemon. Okay, solo evolution. A mechanical dragon Pokemon that is often used to help construction workers. Its jaws can crumble steel with ease. Steel monotype? Dragon steel. A mechanical dragon, okay. Because it drags steel beams along? So nothing about this screams dragon to me. It absolutely shows steel. It might even show electric, but dragon, it's not unseen, but dragon is hard to gather from this as the second type. It feels like it could be like an inspiration or a possible third typing, but with such an emphasis on yellow, I guess because construction equipment is often yellow and black, those are primary colors used here, but it also kind of confuses with electric typing, considering how mechanical this creature looks. But if necessary, that could be a good part of the game, where you're unsure of what the typing can be, and it can be a surprise. I'm not sure what the purpose of this mon is. Mechanically in the game, not story-wise, not lore-wise. I like how the crane is both a very defined jaw for the creature. It seems laughably small, so I'm wondering if the neck extends at all. Let's see if that's in here at all. Physiology? No. Oh! The Christmas one looks adorable! Okay, so yeah, I'm not sure if the neck extends. It looks like it possibly could, which would make it useful. To me, this is about the size of K9 if you've ever watched Doctor Who. Like about the size of a dog, kind of a small to medium dog. So it's funny to think this thing would do anything more than just play fetch with maybe a steel rod. Like 2-foot steel rod that you could chuck. But maybe it is much bigger than this. And aside from that, I like how its legs are more treads. You could have just made it one tread on either side, but I suppose you wanted to make it look like limbs, so sure, 2 treads on either side. Not sure what that purpose would be other than making it look like a creature, but sure. And then the almost collar or necklace this thing would have also looks like it could be a face. So vents, I think, and the caution sign at the very base of that neck help it look like it could be 2 creatures in one or something akin to that. And I do think the shiny is better as a green than a slightly more orange steel coloring. That was a good change. And I guess that's the whole line. All in all, it's interesting. Again, it's not something I would come up with. It looks very small. I actually want to check the height. It is 6'2", but it has a head that big. Okay. Maybe if you wanted to emphasize the size more, you would change the head size. Because as it is, it looks like it could maybe be 3 foot tall. If you decrease the head. If you ever want to make a Pokemon bigger or seem bigger, its proportions are going to be a big thing in that. So to me, the head was so big that it looked so small. Because when a baby's born, the head doesn't grow as much as everything else. It grows at a much slower rate. Especially once you're a small child, the head doesn't grow as much as, say, a leg would. So the proportion of a head size to a leg size is going to trigger in our brain about how big this creature is. So I think I decreased the head just to make it look a little bit more threatening and large. Snowpatch, the tiny tusk Pokemon. Oh, it's a fossil. A Pokemon that roamed the tundra thousands of years ago. They use their small tusk to dig up berries and roots under the ice. Okay. Too far. So very, I guess, basic looking elephant Pokemon. I probably would have given it bigger eyes, but beady eyes work just as well, especially for a fossil Pokemon. I think it could work even better. It gives it a slight air of mystery. Even if it's a baby Pokemon, the idea that maybe the resurrection didn't bring back its eyes could be very interesting. And it even kind of looks like that creature already has frostbite or uses ice as part of itself, with the ice forming on both its back and its paws, along along its nose from the tip of its head. So it looks like this even could have been a botched resurrection from a fossil, which would be a killer storyline. Dermafrost. Okay, pachyderm, I get it. That's interesting. So this is ice rock. I can see the ice clear as day. The rock, not so much. I think that it's relying too much on color, which could just be the base fur of a Pokemon. I feel like the brown and blue work pretty well hand in hand, especially since brown is really just a dark version of orange. The brown and blue complement each other quite well, so it's hard to see rock in it. And I really don't see rock in any texturing of this mon. So I would maybe work on the shape of the creature, maybe giving it a nub tail that is really just a boulder or something. Or maybe feet that ended in rocks instead of toes. Something that was a little bit more rocky or sturdy rather than a organic looking shape to show that it is more of a rock. Or maybe show a giant crack in the creature, maybe along its spine, and then that's where the nose is coming out of. So starting from the base of the neck up through the tip of the head, there's a large crack, and then there's a nose coming out of that crack. That could be a very interesting design that's uniquely showing a rock type, other than just having rocks attached to its body, but showing glaciers expanding and forming cracks in earth. Dermafrost. Walking on two legs, the mountain tusk Pokemon. It charges forward with the unstoppable force of a glacier, and its punch can shatter solid rock. They were hunted to extinction by early humans. So a very strong Pokemon. Again, ice rock, but with its more mountainous looking biceps and back, even the top of its head looking more like a snow-capped mountain, I get rock type way more. Could also have to do with the sturdy looking arm brace that could almost look like a steel type. In fact, if the fur wasn't a shade of brown, I would think that this was a steel type. Actually, I guess it's a shade of purple, isn't it? I would think that this is a steel type purely because the tusk looks like a mask, or the trunk looks like a mask, and the forearm braces look like steel bands. But like I was talking about in the early one, or the pre-evolution Snowpatch, I'm very happy that they were able to show more of a rock typing in Dermafrost without reverting to just rocks in the design. Making its muscles look like mountains is a very interesting idea I hadn't come up with. And if you went with the crevice idea that I had for Snowpatch, it would be hard to think that a mountain would come up from that. So I think I like that better. I like that they didn't use that crevice idea, just so that they could have more mountains. Especially because the one on the tip of its head is the most glaring, since it is basically an upright, snow-capped mountain. I'm not sure why it needed to walk on two legs, but it could look a little bit stronger that way, relate to us a little bit more. It's just kind of strange. Maybe it's supposed to signify growing older from crawling to walking on two legs. I'm not really quite sure. I feel like the growth in the ears and what look like a beard show growth well enough, along with its muscles growing. But to each their own. Slothome. The the Sloth Pokemon. I feel like we already have one of those. But this is Electric Rock. A very lazy Pokemon that lived thousands of years ago. They would climb to the tops of trees and wait to be struck by lightning. Okay. So this mon is probably another fossil? Yeah, hair fossil. Very interesting. Okay. So immediately I like how direct the designers are with this mon. On the on the back of each of their hands of Slothome and Theriamp, they have US plugs with and without ground. I probably wouldn't have noticed if it was just the plug without ground, But then with Theriamp, you get the little surprised face that our plugs have. It's really obvious. So Electric Rock absolutely conveys the electric typing. Again, I'm not so sure about rock typing. The claws look rather sharp and even maybe a little bit shined, but just having the fur being brown shouldn't immediately be your cue to make it a rock type. Theriamp even loses that brown, but it might again be relying on those sharp looking claws it has. I feel like if you're just going to rely on brown, maybe it should be ground, because rock, you can make character designs with rocks in mind without relying on color. I feel like the last evolution line really showed that. Dermafrost. I feel like Dermafrost itself was a great example of that, with the ideas I came up with and the ideas that they used. This is just relying on the coloration again. And though I like how they implemented electric here, despite just having some yellow fur, just having direct electrical implications that older audience members or people who have just looked at where electricity comes from in the US, they can immediately make that connection. With Theriamp 2, the tail, it's very zigzag, akin to a lightning bolt, and it is very blue and yellow. But neither of them explicitly show rock. And if that's your goal, fine. But I feel like even on the top of Slothom's head, there is something you can do to show rock. Heck, maybe just have it be like a super flat head, but faces of rock that are uneven. Just something. Now, speaking of Theriamp, let's see how they use this typing. The giant sloth Pokemon. An ancient Pokemon known for its lightning-fast strikes. It uses its incredibly sharp claws to shave the bark off of trees. So yeah, the claws are a very important part of this mon. Oh, it even looks like there's a line flowing from the ears down to the tail, like it is a wire. Same with the arms. Could even be powering the claws. But again, there isn't a whole lot with rock. Maybe I would just try and make rocks on its arms look like bulging muscles. So it's boulders. It makes the arms look a little bit more powerful, and combined with the claws, it would look very top-heavy. It would look directly rock-typed, but it would have something that resembles rock here. I would understand ground more than rock when it came to Theriamp, and even Slothome at least had the coloration of rock, or ground. I think the idea here is that the claws are rock, or hard as a rock, but with them being of bright blue, it's kind of lost on me. Titanice, the iceberg Pokemon. Okay, I like dark humor. That's a good change of pace for me. That's a very good change of pace. They migrate all over the ocean, congregating at the poles but occasionally moving to warmer waters. What lies beneath the surface is a mystery. So I don't even need to look at the pixel art before I give it its first compliment. This Pokedex and the main game series have had Pokemon whose body is hidden under the ground. I have never seen one bold enough to be under the ice. Usually, especially after Hoenn, you can go underneath the water and look. But with Titanice, they're bold enough to go, you ain't going in the water, it's too cold. You're not doing that. You're not gonna look at this mon. You aren't gonna burrow under the ice. It's kind of funny. I'm a big fan. So it's pure ice type. I feel like it should have been ice steel with so much of it resembling a boat. But with the ice surrounding the boat, yeah, you get this ice typing. Maybe if you colored the ship a little bit differently, being less of an homage, but having maybe the stripe be a dark blue, maybe the chimneys covered in ice or made out of ice, something to meld the idea of a ship and an iceberg more into one than being two separate entities. Yeah, it's alive, but it is unmistakably a ship. Even Pokemon directly inspired by... Even the most egregious Pokemon that are inspired by real-life objects meld ideas. To my mind, Klefki, it gathers keys, so it has physical keys around them, but its body is a key, and its like arms are the ring around it. So the body and the idea are almost one, especially when the body of Klefki is more of like a fluid object turning into a key. Trubbish is a little bit weird, because its body is a bag, but then its arms are made out of the trash. Not something that's more physically possible. The Vanillite line might be the most relative to this. Like, it's just an idea with a face. So it's harder for me to picture it being a living creature, rather than something with just a face plastered on or carved out. I love the idea, and I find it darkly funny. But the idea isn't mixed in well enough. If I looked at this creature, I would think it was steel ice. Or just steel with ice around it. Maybe instead of the lower half of the boat, it was shards of ice coming down, giving it more of an underbite and looking more like a glacier. That would maybe bring the idea together a little bit more while keeping a separation. But at this point, I'm just trying to nitpick on the design. I feel like that's the biggest problem. The coloration looks fine. The idea I love. It's just the design. The design is not my type of thing. It seems too separate from the creature and concept. Frynai, the kunai Pokemon. Water Steel, okay. A favored Pokemon of ninja clans. They propel themselves backwards through the water to attack with their sharp tails. Again, where is this? There are so many different cultures referred to here. Okay. So, without looking at the pixel art, it's going to be very interesting how they... Oh! Okay. I was going to say it's very interesting how they're going to position this to look like a kunai, but its tail is the blade, and then it's got... I'm not sure what that would be, an artery? An artery that looks like a wrapped handle of a kunai, and its eye being the metal circle that you can move around. Very Naruto inspired, I believe. But yeah, it's an interesting design to have your creature intentionally move backwards as far as they can, or as fast as they can. I guess with herbivores it wouldn't matter so much because of their side eyes. I think it'd be hilarious if a carnivore were to do that, because they literally cannot look behind them, they're just going. With an herbivore, I guess you could look a little bit behind. It's a very simple colored design. Oh. Okay, the names are A tier. I don't... Okay. The last one's too good. Okay, so, interesting. I like how it is another Pokemon just trying to look like an object, and apparently function like one if they're favored with ninja clans. But it's using that as a defense mechanism to blend into the world and maybe look not as threatening. Black on the black on red, not too bad at all. It's still a fish, so it looks like it could be a water type. But with a kunai, I could see it either being a dark type because of all the black, and the kunai just being null and void, like pure illusion, and it being a dark type, or steel type, and the katana's an actual threat. So I like that confusion, because it portrays what it is very well, but it still leaves enough ambiguity for new players to not know. That is a great mix that I think that everybody should try and hit, where it portrays the concepts very well, but you're not quite sure. So the Sidene, the Sai Pokemon, they are the bane of many fishermen, as their bladed tails often cut fishing lines. They can change direction rapidly in the water. Oh. So I guess the evolution of this would be that their kunai tail splits into three. It separates and becomes three distinct sharp tails. Again, I really like how they incorporated a tail and a weapon into the body to, again, make it look like a defense mechanism or hiding in the environment. These would probably only be found in Japan, but hey, that's where most of the Pokemon games are. I'm not sure how I feel about this fish having what looks like hands, but it's a good change of pace because not many Pokemon fish have hands. A lot of them are just bodies, or if they have front fins, there's that. It's oddly refreshing to see a fish with hands. And in a Pokemon game, that's strange, but welcome. It continues on with a black and red color scheme. I'm glad that the Psy is more of a silver color to distinct itself and to show off more of a steel type, but it still leaves enough ambiguity that it could be dark. And then you got the helmet sort of feathers going out from the center, or strips of ribbon. Now this next one, Daikatuna. Oh, it's so good! It's so good, and it looks like a boss. Daikatuna. I'm sorry. The name is too good. Oh, it often wields Frynite and Sidene as weapons. The sword on its head is made from steel, folded 10,000 times. Oh, I don't remember where I watched this, but I believe Katana's made back in the old Dr. Stone. Dr. Stone did this. So in Dr. Stone, they showed off that a katana was folded, I believe, 7 or 9 times, one of the two, to get such a hard and straight finish. But Senku said, yeah, no. We should only need to do it twice. Most of the impurities are gone by the second time. It's really just all formality if you do it however many, 5 or 7 or 9 times. So 10,000 times is a bit more than you need. just a bit more than you need. Goodness, that's Daikatuna. It's too good. It looks like an absolute brawler. It has to be all physical, right? I didn't even look. All physical. No special attack or defense. It's so good. This thing, like in Pokemon Sage, I love a good Pompadour. And to have that Pompadour be a blade on a steel Pokemon, and then name it Daikatuna, being a tuna with massive arms that is getting ready to brawl with its massive blade Pompadour, this thing is reaching levels of memery that I cannot even comprehend. It's fantastic. Again, the black and red, it doesn't interfere with the water steel typing at all. At this point, the steel typing is front and centerfold, as the katana is a major focal point of this creature. The bright whites and grays contrast heavily with the blacks that lead up to the blade. And it's the first thing that your eye is drawn to. That shiny blade in the center helps bring your eye down to the face, which has more white, down to the arms, which is a bright orange, and to the tail. It's an easy S line through this creature. Sidene had something similar. You'd go from the side across the body to the eye, and then up through the little ribbons. And Frykatuna went from the eye back, just because of the contrast with the eye and the black body around it, through the line into the katana, or into the kunai. It's a great designed line, 100%. I can't say anything else. I love this. This is fantastic. Oh my god, Daikatuna. Oh, okay. I'll go a couple more. I want to try and make this last 100 be around 3 episodes or so. We'll see. Selkid, the sea nymph Pokemon. Water fairy. So this game has fairy types. I'm not sure if I knew that before. They gather together on rocky shoals and sing together as a harmony. Their human-like voices can be misleading because they sound like a child lost at sea. So it's a mermaid Pokemon singing sailors to their death by accident. It looks very adorable. I like its little swoop-up hair that looks like some sort of weird angled fin. It's very basic head shape, being very round and baby-like. Both with its rounded face, its oval eyes, its rounded cheeks. It's all very baby-like. It's almost like a skinny Oshawott with a smaller head, but it still works. I like this one's tail better than Oshawott's tail, but I think I'd still like Oshawott. Oshawott's just too adorable. But this one's pretty adorable too. Siren Okay. So, Siren Pokemon? Their song is hypnotic, and all who hear it are immobilized. Legends tell of shipwrecks that were caused when sailors were captivated by a Siren song. Okay, yeah, so it led into what I was thinking it would be. Siren I like how it's trying to incorporate waves, so much so that Siren hair is waves going into foaming tide. Even its body looks like a mix between foaming tide in the inner shirt and the ends of its arms. It's a very nifty way to make it look water typed and a little bit regal, which could portray fairy, without relying solely on fish to be water and lots of pinks and wings and all sorts for fairy. The crown helps out. The crown and jewelry help out a little bit with fairy type. The Mega, I think, goes a little far by incorporating so much pink when it was such a strong design that could be fairy without the pink. But it's undoubtedly fairy with the Mega. I just feel like a lot of the Megas are over-designed, and that goes for the base game too, just Pokemon in general. I find it real cool how the tail is the head of a trident. It's not holding a trident, its arms aren't tridents, nothing like that. Its tail has a trident, and that helps bring the gold together and go throughout the creature rather than just being on the head. It's a very cool idea that I think worked well. It helps with the regality of this creature. Mega Sarentide. Ooh, I really don't like the tail on the shiny being all one color but different shades. That could have been helped. That could be redesigned. Please do. Make the little tail ends red. That'll be it. You're good. Make it the light red maybe, but make it different. No. So everything just grows little bits. Pink sprouts from basically every crevice that you could for the Mega. It definitely looks fairy. It looks like fairy godmother incarnate for sailors. They show off a little bit more of the interesting hair, but this shirt loses all of the waves and interesting patterns too. I feel like the second evolution is so much stronger. All in all, a pretty cool line. I'm pretty happy with it. That's real nifty. My favorite takeaway is just having the waves turn into a froth at the end for hair. Huge fan of that. Whoever thought up that, thank you. That's cool. So Spritzy and Aromatise. Okay, maybe they added a third evolution. Did they? No. Okay. I'll go one more. Miasmatic. Plague Doctor Pokemon. Fairy Poison. Okay, interesting. It has the ability to both cause and cure disease. Using its claws, it injects pathogens into its foes. I like it. I am a sucker for somebody who can both heal and not. Okay, so it is a Spritzy evolution. I'm glad I went at least one further. It kind of looked like it. So, taking into consideration the Spritzy, the Spritzy connections it needs to have to seem like a valid evolution, I think it succeeds in basically every possible way. It takes the nose, extends it out, both to show age and to connect to that Plague Doctor idea. So it ends up keeping the fairy type because Plague Doctors were trying to do the right thing, but then oftentimes using practice that didn't turn out to be quite so correct. So the fairy poison typing for this, fantastic for what was just a fairy. It kept the eyes, which helps keep the face a little bit blurred, both because it's wearing a mask and because of the hat. The hat having a little bit of a swirl like Spritzy does when it's a Spritzy. And the plumage matching much of what Miasmatic has when it's wearing its suit. It even continues to hide its little nubbins of feet beneath its feathers. Honestly, I think this does a grade A tier of taking a canon Pokemon and making a Fakemon that's believable. The greens of Miasmatic might be a little bit much. That's the one thing that could distract me. Maybe keeping those as a reference to Spritzy, again, having it be that same pink, could help bring out the eyes a little bit. Maybe keep it the same saturation and brightness as the green, but just changing it to a pink would help bring together everything. Like maybe it's keeping old pre-evolution feathers in its hat as maybe a memento for something. But then to keep the whole design and line together as one. Yeah, no, that was real cool. So I will end it here at 125. Maybe I won't do 3, maybe I'll do 4 episodes. Who knows? But interesting. I'm sure there are still some physically canon Pokemon out there, so maybe it will be 3 if I skip up that many. But very interesting designs that we had here. I absolutely love Daikatuna, if you couldn't guess that already. Dermafrost was interesting enough, though it and Slothome had its own little problems trying to convey rock typing. Chemiconda was interesting. For the most part, I feel like the saturation on creatures and how types are represented are off from what I would do. Instead of just saying that things are different, maybe limiting it down to those 2 ideas is what's really throwing me off. Like Titanice had some nice colors that complemented each other well, but I don't think the ideas were melded together to portray the correct typing. And that's just what I'm feeling. Everybody could interpret these as different. Maybe you would see Titanice as a very cold ship and thus be an ice type. Because it doesn't necessarily have to be steel, it could be wood. But when I think of a ship, especially one that's seafaring, I would think metal. That's just the age I live in, I guess. So, join me next time as I continue on with the rest of the 75 creatures that are left in this dex. Hope you all enjoy. Thank you. Have a good night.